Welcome back, chooms. The day has finally arrived. Over the past week I had a chance to review Phantom Liberty and Update 2.0. With a lack of sleep and gallons of coffee, I went through every single bit of Dogtown, taking in new sights and using new ways of demolishing poor gonks who got in my way. Do keep in mind that the footage you are seeing in the background is provided by CD Projekt Red, but don't worry, my own gameplay is coming very soon. I actually filled up an entire 1TB SSD with new content. Phantom Liberty takes you on a brand new ride of espionage, politics and intrigue, where you get to meet characters from all walks of life and backgrounds, and every single one of them has their own ideals and goals. And then there is you, V, who again is dragged into a situation with a promise of getting a cure for his Relic problem. Expansion itself starts as soon as you get into the game, but in order to trigger it you must first finish the entire quest line with Voodoo Boys in Pacifica. As soon as I stepped foot into Dogtown, there was this eerie feeling that you don't really get through Night City. With Kurt Hansen and his Barges taking over the district, entire area will be controlled and policed by his soldiers. They act as law and order in case you start gaining wanted levels, not out of goodness of their heart, but because Kurt keeps the entire area in a state of status quo. For as long as there is peace, business can resume, which starts telling you a lot about what happens there, from corporate interest, mercenaries, and then all the way to regular people who just want to get by. Dogtown itself looks a lot more post-apocalyptic than anything else close to it. Rundown buildings and abandoned construction sites paint a bleak image of what happens if combat zone spreads too far, leaving only destruction behind it. But there is beauty and hope even in tragedy, so traversing different areas of the map gave me some amazing sights, with finding random people having fun, playing music, to those who are overdosing on all sorts of stuff, trying to break open a metal box to scavenge for some loot. And without going into any spoilers, one of the strongest parts of Phantom Liberty is the main story. It starts off incredibly strong and explosive, action-packed to the brim, to really give you the feel of what to expect. I also enjoy that the main story still gives you time to explore and really get the feel of Dogtown, but it's paced well, and with each part of the story you are getting pieces of information to complete the full puzzle. Story is also filled with well-designed and written characters like Reed, Songbird, Myers, Kurt and so on, that you will have to read or well find out what their actual motive is. They all have their own traits and weaknesses, history that you as a new guy don't really know, so it gives you another dimension to the game where these twists and turns can happen. It surprised me how this story has a lot more pivotal decisions you can make, which influence how things will end. You will be prompt with them a lot, so I really suggest really paying attention to dialogue and your responses or actions. In my review process, I constantly went back trying to figure out different dialogue, testing it out, and honestly, I was impressed with results. Each one of those characters is so charismatic and well written that it makes you think like, okay, maybe I can look at things from more perspectives. And Kurt actually surprised me a lot. Great character, even though he looks tough, you know, his demeanor and tone is the real deal. Somewhat reminded me of Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now film. But it's not just Kurt, everyone is great and you will definitely see it for yourself. I often found myself even getting moved by smaller gigs and stories where I didn't really have time to get to know the character, but it was written so well that in the end you kinda feel something. V is also now regarded as a relatively known merc, so you won't just be standing there, you know, looking like a gonk while others are talking. Your input and connections will be taken into account. I love that part because it gave me a sense of time progression and that you doing stuff around Night City doesn't really go unnoticed. But look, without going too far, the main story is definitely a roller coaster and, in my opinion, one of the strongest suits of this expansion. Going into side missions and gigs, Dogtown is filled with them. A lot of gigs in general you get are from Mr. Hands, being that he is, you know, the main fixer of that area. But it's not just that, there is so much more which of course you will have to find out for yourself. And just like the main story, side missions and gigs also have a lot more dialogue, decisions and routes you can take. Things can progress further if you make the right choices, giving you some cool rewards. And I enjoyed how those gigs were written as well. You really get to meet all sorts of people and do some really funny things, and actually some missions which are not like classic missions in general, but they were kind of fun to do. But oh boy, there are some serious storylines in this game, like some really tough emotionally stories. And some of them at the end kinda left me like thinking it like, wow, okay, this was kinda big. So as soon as a quest is able to do that, for me that's a very big thing. Phantom Liberty also has a lot more bosses and mini-boss encounters. I enjoyed fighting them because there is a lot more variety in the type of a boss you're gonna be fighting, which doesn't make it a copy and paste, but there is a full story on why this boss is there in the first place, which is nice. They were also reasonably tough to fight, even with my endgame character. By utilizing different skills and abilities, they can definitely counter your build. It's not a walk in the park. Rewards you get in the end are also good and useful. My recommendation is not just to push through the main story, but rather mix between main story and side content. For my playthrough, this was the most optimal way to go. And again, really pay attention to decisions you make. Some can definitely land you in hot water, while others can reward you. Besides side missions and gigs, you also have repeatable activities to do through Dogtown, like car boosting and airdrops. Airdrops will trigger randomly as you are walking or driving through the district. You will see a drone flying over, throwing a package, and red smoke will appear for you to see where it is. Drone also has an audio cue, you hear it buzzing, so it really won't be a problem to miss this event. Once you approach airdrop, there can be few variations. Either two sides are fighting for it, like Voodoo Boys, Scavs, or Barghest. It can also be completely guarded by Barghest in the first place. Usually for me, it didn't really trigger wanted level if I fought Barghest, and even if it did, it disappeared fast. Which is different if you attack Barghest in open world, because that gives you wanted level. After you clear out the zone, you approach the drop and hack it. Hacking was easy. Remember, you can wait and plan where to click because timer runs only after you click for the first time. Although sometimes I found the package to be unlocked, so I just picked up the loot. Inside you will find weapons, crafting material, XP progression shards that we will talk about in the perks section of this review. In my opinion, I think it's definitely worth to do it. Whatever stuff you don't need, you can always sell and make some extra eddies. Good thing is that the loot spam is now not present as before. Enemies don't drop too many things now, making it easier to organize an inventory. Frequency of those drops is relatively fast. I mean, sometimes I even skipped some because they spawned in too fast and I was zooming to finish the mission. Other activity which you can do is to boost cars for Muammer Reyes. Car boosting works in both Night City and Dogtown if you have Phantom Liberty expansion. As I was driving through Haywood or City Center, I had car boosting missions trigger. Basically, you're going to see a wheel on the minimap, you approach it, you enter a car and the mission is going to start. But if you get it in Dogtown, it usually involves getting out of Dogtown and delivering it to different points which vary from mission to mission. Getting out of Dogtown is easy. You get some sort of an access card very fast into the expansion. Don't worry, this is not a major spoiler or spoiler in general. So you can basically leave and enter whenever you want. You get in, they scan you and your vehicle and gate is open. Actually no visible loading screen. Same for getting out. Car boosting missions vary in variety. You will be stealing all sorts of cars from slow ones to high-end ones, fast sports cars. Delivery can happen in a few ways. Sometimes you get attacked by other gangs who want to steal it, so you have to defend it by shooting from your vehicle and lose them before you make the delivery. Sometimes the car is gonna be moving, so you have to steal it. Well, if you're a netrunner, you can pretty much stop the vehicle and, initiate brakes. Or if you're not, you can basically park in front of the car and then quickly get out and get into a vehicle for the mission to start. Sometimes delivery will have a countdown where you have to zoom to deliver the car before timer runs out. Those are usually the most challenging ones because even if you are fast and driving good, I sometimes had issues getting to it on time, or it was really tight with 10 to 15 seconds left, sometimes even less. By finishing those activities you get access to more missions from Muammar, and also because you can buy some cars from your computer, there is also a vendor online. You can also unlock vehicles as you boost cars. Some of them are insanely good, so I recommend doing this activity. They are not cheap though, but with having these activities you can earn eddies a lot faster now. They don't shower you in money, but it's not bad. Speaking of activities, now you also have to pay attention to the new police system in the game. I will have a video showcasing 2.0 in more detail with my own gameplay after the patch is out, but in general it influences things a lot. There is visibly a bigger police presence now, depending on the district of course. Police cars will be cruising around, there is more variety with their vehicles, and also it has a different siren now, even with that extra alert siren when you chase. Plus you can actually now see through the cars properly in case if you wanted to drive a police car in the first place. They are a lot more aggressive now. When you commit a crime, they arrive after a few seconds searching for you, so if the crime was reported and they were not there, they won't automatically trigger you into combat, which is very nice, unless you were seen by a cop beforehand. It's not really a problem to escape 1 star, I mean you can just escape, like for example cops drive from 1 or 2 streets, so you just have to navigate around their fields of vision going to another side, and that's pretty much it. If you are seeing police start chasing you in their cars, first 1 or 2 vehicles, later much more, with heavier and more equipped NCPD units coming out with, more HP and armor. Max Tech is the final unit you can trigger. They actually do act as a small boss in a sense, making them a bit tougher than before. In Dogtown, NCPD is replaced by Barghest, as I said, but Max Tech is gonna be arriving if you're really causing trouble. And they have good firepower as well, with weaponized vehicles attacking and shooting you very precisely. So the best option for you is to run. If you intend to fight, they will keep coming at you. Now in 2.0, I believe some cars do have machine guns in vanilla, I mean without Phantom Liberty. It's a bit confusing for me because I had 2.0 and Phantom Liberty at the same time, so I wasn't sure if it was added later. Definitely check your cars like Quadra Javelina if you have it. That one must have machine guns on it, at least it has for me, but in general you have a lot more vehicles now which are weaponized, especially those with Crystal Dome technology. One I like a lot, which is basically an armored vehicle with both rockets and guns, but I do believe that's a part of Phantom Liberty, but honestly this is almost like a tank and it's great for causing chaos. In general, AI is chasing really well. They can be very fast actually, trying to box you in or run you off the road, spin and so on. Sometimes though in tight spaces they were having some issues, but it wasn't present to the point where it got bugged. And also I'm very happy with driving changes. There are some which allowed me for more control over my vehicle. Of course it's not a 180-degree change, but I felt like it's smoother than before. Collision works better now as well because you will constantly bump cars in chases, so they removed a lot of those glitches which happen once you ram into a car and then car gets stuck or whatever. Also vehicles have a bit more HP now, so I didn't really have enemies blow up my vehicles that easily. You can shoot from your pistol or submachine gun in first and third person from the vehicle. Cars have 3 cameras now, one which is close, medium and one far away. You can shoot in third person as well, there is auto lock if you want it. On bikes you can also take out katana to slice enemies, works well overall and I had some cool moments with it. Update 2.0 introduces new fully redesigned perks and how you get them. My advice is to read through all of them before making a decision. Don't worry though, whenever you are outside of combat you can simply unlearn the perks, or well, all of the perks you have, and reinvest into something else, ultimately changing your build. Some parts of the perks unlock after you meet certain attribute points. That is usually after 15 attribute points or 20 for the highest set of perks. Attribute points you can reset once, there will be an option for it, but it won't reset automatically, so if you want to test out your old build before releasing it or resetting it, you can absolutely do it. UI and overall user experience is a lot better now, because in each perk tree you will have 3 different subpaths, where one is specific, let's say, for tech weapons and abilities you get with it. Same for the rest, where one subpath is only, for example, for blade weapons, assault weapons and submachine guns, shotguns and so on. It's important because it gives you good visibility of what you want from your character and how to shape it. By investing in perks you unlock finishers and stances to utilize in combat, along with more minor stats like buffs, for example for damage, critical, hit chance, defense and so on. I found by combining different abilities like Air Dash and Karesnikov, I can achieve some insane results and play how I want, because the game is a lot more sandboxy now, it allows for it. Besides leveling your character to level 60, which is in Phantom Liberty, skills are also changed now, where they were transformed into Headhunter, Netrunner, Shinobi, Solo and Engineer. By doing these things like hacking, fighting in a certain way, sneaking and so on, you level up your skills, and by doing so you can gain new buffs, for example increased movement, faster quick hacks, less recoil and much more, just like it was before, but now there is less and it's grouped more, which makes it easier to follow. Also, as you do activities and get rewards, you also get progression shards, which basically give you XP in one of those categories, making you level up faster. And some people actually sell XP shards in shops if you want to get extra, but it's not going to be cheap though, and they don't have too many in stock. With Phantom Liberty you also unlock Relic skill tree, which serves as a nice bonus towards your existing build, by enhancing playstyle you are already utilizing and adding some useful abilities. You unlock those points by finding Militech terminals hidden around Dogtown. It gives you sound cues when you get close to it, and also in the case you get within, let's say, 100 meters of it, it does appear on the map and it's going to stay visible there in case you forget it. So in general, you know, finding them wasn't really a problem. I found myself stumbling upon them more randomly than actively searching for it, because some perks require 3 points rather than 1. Sometimes you will have to find more to unlock it, but don't worry, though there are enough of those, you know, basically in Dogtown. Phantom Liberty gives you a bunch of new weapons, cars and clothing pieces. Some of those cars are insanely fast, some can serve as armored vehicles while others can be for casual driving. There are some racing sports variants there which are really cool looking. Weapons in general are good. You have a lot of older models of weapons which have new skins, but the variety in new weaponry is great. There is, for example, a katana I have, iconic one, which has the ability to strike without pulling it out first. You know those samurai moves where they just strike with one fell swoop? Well, you can do that here and it's one of my main weapons, but most importantly, it's good looking when it comes to design. That's also for every other, weapon you get. I also love new clothing pieces, good variety and design. For people who love to incorporate masks and helmets in their set, well, you will love this. And because most clothing pieces now don't give you armor, you can find ballistic vests that if you equip them, they give you armor or other buffs, not necessarily defensive ones. Transmog still works normally, so you go to your apartment, you go to wardrobe and you can change and create new sets how you want from your inventory, and then as you're outside you go into wardrobe and change one of those sets you saved. For everyone asking, crafting is still here, it's just moved to another tab. You can craft things like before, normally, but you need less resources for it. Mostly crafting material which now goes from tier 1 to tier 5 and later on tier 5 plus and plus when you upgrade. So tier 1 material crafts tier 1 items, tier 2 crafts tier 2 items and so on, very straightforward. You find crafting material in the world after you finish activities from random boxes, traders and the usual. In case you want to craft, you still have to buy blueprints. They can be expensive, but if your character already had them prior to 2.0 and Phantom Liberty, they're still going to be there, you just have to buy blueprints for all of the new items. In update 2.0, CDPR revised Cyberware and its use, and because a lot of clothing doesn't provide armor anymore, you gain a lot of armor and passive and active buffs from your Cyberware. On the left we can see, well, Cyberware threshold, or as I like to call it, humanity level. Each piece of Cyberware takes different amount of that humanity level, or well, pushes the Cyberware capacity up. In case you get Edgerunner perk, your threshold is going to increase, allowing you to place more Cyberware. Plus, by investing in other perks, you will be able to place additional Cyberware, or well, gain additional slot in hand section, for example. You can upgrade each piece of Cyberware just like you would upgrade a weapon, which gives you new passive abilities and increases its effectiveness. On the right you can see how my armor is looking like, but keep in mind I do have additional pieces of clothing on me which does increase armor even more. But now we have my biggest problem with this expansion, and that's that there is no new arms or hand cyberware. So you have the usual gorilla arms, mantis blades, monovire and so on. And it does seem that most of the changes went into making existing cyberware better and to give you more variety with it, but sadly, as I said, it doesn't feature any brand new arms or hand cyberware for you to play with. I do wish it was there, especially utilizing new finishers and perks. I do think that in general most people will have this as their biggest minus. But in my opinion, with all of the new perks and finishers we have, I did have more fun with cyberware than we usually do, so it kinda mitigates the other issue. But of course, let me know down below in the comments what do you think about this, especially having a lack of new arms or hand cyberware. And now for the end, there is a sit down and get up animation after you finish upgrading or well placing cyberware, which is something I like because it increases overall immersiveness. And also in the UI you can actually see how this cyberware is placed within your body, which is very nice. But for everyone asking, it doesn't appear on your body besides obviously hands and arms cyberware. But oh man, when it comes to level and environmental design, after the main story it has to be my second favorite thing from the expansion. Dogtown is detailed, filled with content, activities, encounters, people, but the most important fact is that it paints Dogtown combat zone exactly how it's supposed to be from the lore. Sprinkle in some elements of post-apocalyptic Las Vegas and you will be in awe in some of the locations here. From old history museum with dinosaurs and foliage to abandoned hotels, stadiums which are teeming with life and people from all walks of life. Going to a higher vantage point in the district and then overlooking the area during sunset was fantastic. Locations you visit for missions are also designed so they allow for different approach depending on your character build. If you want to go in stealth, you can. If you want to attack enemies head on and take them like that, it allows for it as well. But playing around with environment is still recommended because for each entries there is definitely a way you can utilize it in a very cool way to get in or get out. I mean, I love Cyberpunk 2077 style, and when you see it there, it's just, it completes a whole set with Dogtown. This district was very much needed, and it's a contrast even for a dystopian society, in the rest of Night City and the rest of the districts. I found myself just walking around, taking in the sights, constantly watching that I don't go into a wrong area or be attacked by someone, but there is beauty in that. And CDPR played a lot with verticality here. Even though, Dogtown itself in terms of, let's say, length is not the biggest, for me it was enough. Because they get on that size by using roofs of buildings or scaffoldings and some other locations and so on. No stone was left unturned, and everywhere you go there is some detail or things are happening. And visuals cannot be complete without sounds, especially environmental ones. As soon as you step foot into Dogtown, in the background you're gonna be hearing gunfights, screams, trucks, machinery, rifles that should be there. This is a combat zone after all. And even though Vargas somewhat controls it, it's still very much a wild zone. And also the rest of the music is fantastic, with 3 new radio stations, Growl FM, Impulse and Darkstar Radio. And there is also area outside in Pacifica which has Growl FM Party, where you can dance or just sit around, which is something I have been asking for before, just those small spots in Night City that you can utilize in open world to sit and do stuff. Now let's talk about AI. In general, combat AI has changed. Enemies are now a bit smarter, they move around a little bit more, flank you and throw a lot more grenades. Because of a new wanted system, they search more and are aware of their environments a lot more than in the past patches, trying to find you or a better vantage spot to shoot you from. There were some moments, like for example, where I had some of these issues, like for example, NPCs sometimes did not respond fast enough, so he's shooting at me, I jump across him and he just doesn't turn away that fast, so he just kind of sits there looking nowhere. So that's actually something I noticed, but it wasn't happening too often. And some funny moments where a fast enemy, zooms into me, like for example, there is this max tech officer, he was zooming into me and for a split second, He did a T-pose and then continued. That was that was a funny one. Civilian AI is pretty much the same. I did notice a lot more of them are now carrying weapons and they will shoot back, but they will be actively using phone calls against you to call NCPD if you're doing some sus stuff around them. There are also some cool animations, and even when you wound them, you know, it was present before like in previous patches, but they will put out a pistol with one arm or limb. I also noticed something similar here, with them sometimes even trying to limp away from me to run away. Plus now you can hack cars and any car basically in the game, and I did some fun experiments with NPCs, you know, making them slam their brakes or even take control of the vehicle from far away. Now when it comes to open world activities, I was driving around to see if I can notice something, and I noticed a lot more encounters like gangs fighting other gangs, full chases between them, or even police chasing or shooting booster gangs. Because those different gangs are finally showing that they dislike each other, so it won't be a surprise to see, for example, mocks fighting tiger claws and so on. And besides Roach Race, there is also a new Trauma Team minigame. I suggest you really try it out, it's fun. When it comes to bars, I mean, it's pretty much similar like it was before, you know, with buying drinks and food. It's just going to open up the inventory and that's about it. Although, in some cases you do get prompts to like drink whiskey and whatever, so it does happen. Because there are also some points in Night City and Dogtown where you have chairs to sit or join a little party, so on that front it's better than before. Just don't expect a completely drastic change in that, but Night City definitely feels a little bit more alive. And now we arrive to bugs, glitches and frame rate or general performance. First off, when it comes to bugs, I experienced a few where sometimes my vehicle did not want to arrive when I called it, but it happened once I reloaded it and it was fixed. There were some problems with people getting stuck in things like during combat, not during dialogue and anything, but rather just when things get hectic, like they're gonna be going into a level or fall through the level or get stuck on something and they cannot move. But again, it wasn't happening when things were calm, only when I started firing rockets and, you know, shooting back. That's when things kind of get all over the place when it comes to like people flying and shooting and so on. Also, animation on execution sometimes can glitch out where you don't see really the dude in front you're trying to stab, but the animation continues. It's not happening a lot, which is good. Besides that, everything else was good for me. Keep in mind, I only have PC version of the game, so I don't know how the game does on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. So I will at least, you know, buy the PS5 version after release so I can have my console review. Performance wise though, you can see my setup on the screen. I had relatively a smooth experience in 2.0 when it comes to Night City. My FPS stayed the same for me prior to the update and after the update, which was good. In Dogtown though, frame rate did vary a bit in certain areas, like the middle of the district where, you know, there is most traffic, is where I had some drops. It doesn't really turn into a slideshow, which is good, but it can drop sometimes. With ray tracing on, I think those drops are a little bit more visible, but of course ray tracing in itself is demanding. But with it, I had a lot more areas of Dogtown which were giving me those slight issues, and I know I wasn't having them in the rest of Night City, so it could be only tied to Dogtown itself. I will be able to show it properly though when I can upload my own gameplay with previous, you know, problems I mentioned. So in the end, Phantom Liberty is a great send-off to Cyberpunk 2077 and Red Engine. I did get a little sad in the end that we won't have another expansion, because honestly this was amazing and I would love to have more. But luckily next Cyberpunk game will come out. But for that we have to wait a long time, and it's going to be in Unreal Engine 5. Look, it's been a long time now that I'm covering this game. Years prior to getting out, release problems, and then improvements throughout updates. They all led to this moment, and I am glad that Cyberpunk is in a state right now where it's really a complete game that everyone who is only about to play it for the first time is going to have a blast. But for everyone who played throughout the game already, these changes, at least for me, warrant another playthrough, and Phantom Liberty itself is going to also have like few new playthroughs, because I really want to experience all of the possibilities and little hidden stuff to find and in dialogue and so on. I do recommend this, especially from the story perspective. This is a classic expansion, just like it was before. filled with content, and it gives enough time to warrant the money. Remember though, when it comes to overall performance and everything, again, I was only able to test this on 3070 Ti, so the experience of others will most likely vary compared to mine. Especially if you are interested in performance and heavy look on that, I do recommend watching Digital Foundry, because I'm pretty certain they will have a video on this. And this wait was worth it, and you will see why for yourself. CDPR turned this game around, and story delivers again, pushing you to the limits when it comes to trust and friendship. Phantom Liberty is amazing, and again, I'm very sad that this is only going to be this one expansion, because I would love more. Expect a lot more videos from me in the future. I will be covering this heavily, and tomorrow also, when 2.0 comes out, there will be some surprises for you to check out as well. And thank you for watching. This was a colossal production to make, but I will have a lot more in the store for all of you in the future. And if you enjoyed this video, click that like and subscribe button for more, and tell me down below what is your favorite upcoming feature and what do you think about this review in general. This is LKM signing out. Join our community on Twitter and Discord, and huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. Stay classy, chooms, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye bye.